All right, we are live. Scotty Mac. This is episode number 34. Good to see you, Scotty. Got to be honest, let's tell everybody, because I know you're super organized. You text me about 5 minutes before 8 o'clock, and you said 7 o'clock here, and you said, jump on. And I said, jump on. I said, what are you talking about? I said, you mean in an hour, right? So anyway, in Ecuador, Scott, we don't do daylight savings. So obviously I was unprepared. And as you could see, I didn't shower. I threw a hat on. I got the headphones rocking. You're always ready to go. What's going on, Scotty? Yeah, you didn't see me running around, little different look right now for everybody. Ellie's not here with us tonight. Ellie's taking a little break, but Scotty Mac's going to fill in. You're going to multitask, but you're pretty amazing at that. So I'm not worried. And we have a guest, Todd O'Neil, that you may not be familiar with, but the guy's been around the sport, Scotty, for a long, long time. And I know you were talking before I came on. So, what's your take on Todd O'Neil? Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Todd's been around a long time. He's a national champion. He's a world champion. He's also played many, many professional, events. He's been on the U.S. team, and he really was a big part of racquetball, especially in Texas. In Texas, Scott, you're there now. It was a big hotspot. Dave Peck, Greg Peck, Mike Guidry, Drew Catchstick. Todd O'Neil goes right in there. I know you don't know too much about him, but maybe after tonight you will. He's fun-loving guy. He's a good guy. He's a lefty, and it'll be a good conversation. So, I think we'll take a quick break, 30 seconds, and then we'll be right back with Todd O'Neil. Scotty Mac, don't go far, because you might have to jump in, and I don't mind when you jump in and ask some questions. It's always good to see you and have you. So we'll be right back, everybody, with Todd O'Neil. All right, back, episode 34, Beyond the Court. I got my buddy, many of you are friends. Everybody knows Todd O'Neil. So I'm going to warn you now, Todd, I'm going to call you Teddy. So for everybody watching and listening, Teddy's a little nickname amongst a bunch of the players from the old school. Teddy, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Great, man. How you doing? Hey, how are you?
Doing
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining. You're a legend. This is the thing. And I was telling Scott, Todd O'Neil's been around. You were in the heyday. You were right in the middle of Texas, and Texas was a huge hotbed for racquetball. It still is, but I know it's not quite like it was when you were there from 90 to 2000. But before we get to that, tell everybody where you're at right now, where you're living. I know you had a little bit of a change, and what's going on.
Yeah, I just got out to San Diego at the January 1st, and it's been my first goal was back when I was 18 was to move out here and be a racquetball pro like everyone else wanted to do. This was the Mecca, and I'm a little late getting here, and I'm playing paddleball right now at the Pacific Paddleball Association. And it's funny. I just played golf with Charlie Brumfield yesterday.
No way.
The Brum Star is still alive and well. You want to talk about old school racquetball, and these guys are really into paddleball. It's weird. So I just took in. There's one court, Pacific Paddleball, and I'm playing twice a week. And until the courts open up, I'll be playing that until I can play some racquetball again.
So you played golf yesterday with one of the GOATs, Charlie Brumfield. So I know you're pretty good in golf. So how's the Brum? How's he doing? We're going to have him on the show one day. So maybe you'll bring him on.
You got it. He's just, he's 73 now. And about 3 years ago, I think he was diagnosed with cancer. So he's grinding it through. You know, Brahma's a tough character, and after his racquetball days, he was a real accomplished paddleball. He's really kind of one of these kind of mad scientists, sort of know-it-all guys that'll do anything to get better at any plays. So golf's no different. He gets out there and I'm reading this book on this game. And, he's just awesome. And anytime you can hang out with him. And also I played with Emmett Coe and his girlfriend, Savannah. So Emmett's the top paddleball player right now, I think, either him or Chris Crothers. But anyway, yeah, we're doing it out here in San Diego right now.
So you're well established. You have many titles in racquetball. For those of you that don't know, Todd is, an amateur national champion. He's a world champion, amateur world champion. He's been on the US team many times. He's been around forever. And from 1990 to 2000, Todd, you were in Texas. And, talk about a hotbed for racquetball. Mike Guidry, Drew Katchnick, Greg Peck, Dave Peck. There's so many Aaron Katz, and you belong right in that list. Todd O'Neil, Lance Gilliam, Doug Eagle. Tell everybody what Texas racquetball was like, in the 10 years that you were there, and how different it might be today.
So back in 1990, I just left Memphis State, and I just won the intercollegiates and was playing some good racquetball. And I was playing, I was kind of one of those local legend guys, those $500 guys. I'd play everywhere and anywhere for the money. And I just moved to Texas. I was living in Dallas, and the very first tournament I played in was the Warren Finn in Houston, big tournament at the J. It's, got a long running history. And Annie Muniz is the tournament director. And I call up for my starting time, and she's like, yeah, you're Friday at 5. And I'm like, wait a minute, Friday at 5. I mean, I always used to play like Saturday. I never played Friday. So
you were too good. You were too good.
Well, you didn't play Friday usually in a 16-man. You never played Friday. So I'm like, well, what did you, what's the seating here? So she goes down the list. First at the time it was Drew, Guidry, Katz, Dave Peck, Greg Peck, Lance Gilliam, Charlie Garrido,
wow,
and Bill Perotti. So
yeah,
Bill's 8 and I'm 9th, and I'm like, who is this Bill Perotti guy? I am the national intercollegiate. I don't know this guy. So legit deal. I played him later. I won my Friday 5. I had to play him Saturday 16s, and he beat me. Yeah, so the draws were deep. Wait.
Think about this. So this is how racquetball was. And what year was this, Todd?
1990.
Okay, Todd's the collegiate national champion, playing for the best college school in the country, Memphis State. And we'll get into that, Todd, the history of Memphis State University. And you're in Texas, you go in as the 9 seed and you lose. That's like, the competition is crazy.
Yep. And that wasn't the only time Bill beat me. So that's the difference, and when I talk to Mike and Bill and Dave or any of the old Texas guys, and that's kind of what's missing in the game today, is that we don't have those Bill Perottis, those local guys that just show up from Austin that are these really fit grinders that if you're playing bad or you take it, whatever, you take someone lightly, they're going to take you down, and the draws are deep. And, we always had 16, 25, 30 players, and there's tournaments every weekend. I played, 1 year I played 42 weekends. I mean, every weekend there's some place to play.
Yeah, you said, I know we were talking earlier, and you said that you played like 35 events a year. Is that accurate? Is that
minimum,
about right?
Minimum 35 to 42 is the most, but I always played about 35. I mean, so you got to remember, I was playing, and this is some of the conversations I had with Ellie and stuff. So when about Rojas and stuff, like those guys are just trying to make a living on the tour. So when they go and make a quarters and get 1,200 and it costs them 1,000 to get there, and they go, wow, I can't get it done. You know, I'm living in Dallas, and I'm making, you know, 500 to 1,000 like every weekend. I'm playing and I'm stringing rackets. I'm getting
Making a living.
lessons. Yeah, I'm making a living. And I would show up at pro stops if it made sense, but most of the time, you know, like the big three in Dallas at the time, you know, Dave and Greg had kind of retired after I got there, but you know, the A Train, Aaron Katz, he was
Sure.
no fun to play.
Nope.
Gidry, no fun to play, and Catchtrick, no fun to play. So those guys,
You have to tell
those
me.
those guys were a nightmare to play. Then they would go to pro stops and they kind of took their foot off the gas and wouldn't play all the local stuff. So I would be like, why am I going to Crystal City, Virginia, and spending a fortune when I can go to Austin and play Lance Game for 1,000 and have a good chance of winning? And so that's what I did. I played everywhere.
So wait, that's interesting though. So because, you know, I know you, we know each other forever as well, but I never knew that. So you would literally choose the local events because it was just easier in a way for you to take some money as opposed to having to go play maybe, you know, Cliff Swain or Andy Roberts, or is that?
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned those two, because Cliff really, you know, I grew up playing him in New England, and when he was getting really good, it was just a nightmare to play him. And so I took a ton of beats out from him to where I was like, so if he's in the draw, you know. And then when I went to Memphis, I lost to Andy hundreds of practice games. Like, he was a killer. I mean, you know, Andy Roberts didn't really start playing the tour till after college, and had he played the tour, you know, when he was younger, he would have been a devastating force, but he was just a kind of an amateur powerhouse. But so those two guys were in the draw, and then you guys were coming up. But so it was like, I mean, I really had it. I was kind of psyched out by those two, to be honest. They were so good, and they just had so much game. They pretty much, you know, I was better doubles at singles, but I couldn't beat those guys. Just to be honest. I mean,
Yeah,
I tried everything I could.
you're definitely a double specialist. I can tell you that, you know, when I was coming up, like you said, we're just a few years apart. I'm not sure, but
10.
are we 10 years? No, how old are you?
I'm 53.
Oh, you're the same as Clavin. Okay. So like
Yeah.
7, 8 years. I think Clave's a little older, but
1 year.
okay. You know, when I was coming up, every time I thought I had to play against you, I was like, oh man, you know, Todd O'Neil, he's vicious on the left. He's a good player. So I would always want to, you know, be ready to go because I had a lot of respect and I knew who you were. And I knew that you know, you had all these wins under your belt, and you always definitely inspired me to be ready to play against you. And we obviously have contrasting styles. For those of you that don't know, Todd isn't considered a power player, and I think I was considered a power player, or still am. But you know, it was definitely a lot of fun. And you know who you remind me of, Teddy? Tin Cup, like kind of like Kevin Costner in the movie Tin Cup. You're a guy that could go out and like show up and win an event, and you know, some people might not know you, some do, but the people that need to know who you are, and you're definitely always a force to be reckoned with. Tell us some, I mean, you have so many amazing stories about racquetball. I don't even know where to begin. Like, I love just talking about old school stuff. I would just listen. Believe it or not, everybody, Todd's one of the few in racquetball that can get me to shut up because he's got so many cool stories, and I love the history. So Todd, I don't know, tell everybody a good story about Texas racquetball, you know, one that stands out.
Well, I mean, we got to talk about Houston. I mean, every year, Houston Nationals was a grizzly bear, just a grizzly bear of a tournament. The first year I played was 83. I was 16 and Cliff was 17. And, I think there's like a 128 draw. Dan Ferris ended up winning. I played that tournament.
128 people.
At minimum, I think they were rat-tailed into the 128. I mean, there was this crazy amount of people, and you know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if you go to, you know, you take whoever from wherever, and they show up, and that's their big tournament. You know, they're diving everywhere. So you couldn't take anyone lightly from anywhere at any time. And then sometimes those courts would get wet. It was just a dicey place to play. It's so humid, and the courts were fast, so they didn't play into my control game. So I always get up against buggers, and I never did any good. I made the finals. My best Houston was a loss to Ruben. So 96, I Brunfeld in the he was going for a three-peat. He won in 94, 95. He was going for a three-peat in 96. So I played him, beat him, and then I beat Eric, and then I beat Ruben in the first game of the finals, 15. Kind of at the water fountain, trying to think of my acceptance speech, right?
So wait a minute, I didn't know that. So you were in the finals of Houston.
Yeah. With Ruben was 44, I was 30.
Wow.
He got me. I called some kingdom. Only the Rubes kind of threw that first game and got me deep in the water in the second game. It was like 11-all, and this is how much everybody loved Ruben. Everybody's cheering against me.
Right.
The refs making calls against me. Anyway, I lose the second, I lose the third, like 11-8. And I'm just like looking at this guy, and there's been so many times, even players, and I'll have to throw this out. Mike Guidry's like, how did you lose to? He's 44. Well, they played in the following US Open and Ruben beats him. So he's coming off the court. He looks at me and goes, don't say anything. But the Rubes is like timeless. So that was kind of that was the best I've done. But I love the Rubes, and I know, you go way back with him, but the guy I just couldn't believe it. So I later played him in the finals of the World Championships that summer, and I was running every day. And
so you were both on Team USA at the time now?
Both Team USA.
Okay.
Later that summer, World Championships.
Where was that?
I trained like a madman. And
where was the World?
Phoenix.
Okay, so the World Championships were in Phoenix. That's cool.
Yeah,
so
at the City Squire, the old City
awesome.
Square Club.
Sure.
14 courts. You played there. Well,
phenomenal.
I loved Ruben. So there's a call, and we're coming off, and Ryan was coaching me. But anyway, all of a sudden, Cheryl Godinez and I think Michelle Gilman are like, oh, that's Skip. And they're on my team. I'm like, they're like rooting for Ruben against me. I'm like, girlfriend, we go way back. What's up? And they're like, just everybody loved Ruben. You could never be the favorite against him. You could only just be lucky and play good enough and maybe win. But he just, you know what I mean? Everybody loved that guy.
Well, Rubes is famous, as you know, and Scott, if you can hear me, feel free to chime in. Is that Todd's Wi-Fi or something that's going on there? I'm getting like a little breakup. Ruben, Todd, you know this. Ruben's famous for the 10-10, right? Giving up the call against Hogan or something. And he says it skipped or whatever. He lost the match. And a lot of us that know anything go, that's why he's the greatest cheater in the world, because everybody just thinks he's the most honest because of that one call. Can you explain that story? Do you know it pretty well, what he did there?
I don't know that one. I know that Drew had him 10-0 in stock lost. I knew that. Rubes really, Rubes played really fair. I don't know the Hogan story, but Rubes really played fair.
Hey guys, I'm not sure if that's Todd or if I'm having a Wi-Fi issue here.
Thing where it's like maybe,
So Todd, I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I don't know if there's a technical difficulty. Are you hearing me okay? Are you seeing me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay, so Scotty, if you can hear me, can we pinpoint what's going on? Because I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I don't want to. So Todd, let's talk about, you obviously know a lot about the game. And recently there was, some chatter about the Hall of Fame, right? So I'd love to get your opinion on the Hall of Fame, the USAR Hall of Fame, who belongs, who doesn't, and, what you think is the criteria and if you like it or not. Just talk about it.
Yeah, I don't. So here's my situation. I was in deep from 75 to 2000, 25 years strong. and then, I have 4 kids. So I kind of fell off after 2000. I know Todd Boss has done a ton of work and stuff, but I really can't speak. I mean, I know he's done a lot of stats and I know he's great for the game. I just found out that he's on the board of directors and all that and stuff. So I really can't speak to that stuff. I just know that, in the heyday of the game, you got editor-in-chief and Linda. I don't know why she's been left off. So I was just really kind of surprised at that. And then I was like, I don't even know who's in. I was starting to think, well, is Mike Ray in? And then Mike Ray's in, but Drew's not in. Drew is a former number 1. I think that carries a lot of weight. I mean, like there's a lot of players that have played and just dreamt about being number 1. And, I think number 1 gets you in. So if Drew's not in, I think he's got to go in, but I really don't. I just thought she was in the trenches with me. I used to work the US Open with her. I mean, every time something needed to be done, she seemed to be there. So I just thought from a contributor standpoint that she definitely should be in. So that was my only thing online.
All right. So, but talking about that, a lot about the Hall of Fame, a lot about the history of the sport, and not speaking to any individual in particular, what do you think is worthy of being in the Hall of Fame of anything? I mean, we're talking about racquetball, right? But, what do you think, who deserves to go into a Hall of Fame?
Well, I think obviously performance. And I think the problem with the Hall of Fame is, if we get too far away from people that were in the game at the time, then there's perspective lost. And that's what confuses me about Linda, because she was there, in the heyday and stuff like that. But like for me to, like, I can speak in depth about anyone that was in the game in the 80s and the 90s. You were there, who played, who's kind of should be and shouldn't be. Moving forward after that, I really don't know. But as far as like, I think a world number 1, number 1, he won a ton of stuff. He's easily Hall of Fame based on his wins and his, he could be amateur or pro, but he's in. Drew's not in. But, I just think, as a pro, if you finish number 1, definitely. Amateur, that stuff's up to debate, because there's so many guys that are kind of have a lot of wins and credentials and stuff.
It's hard. It's really hard. There are 3 ways to get in, from what I understand. There's amateur, professional, and then there's contributor. So those are your 3, the 3 ways you can enter into the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to throw some names at you, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Teddy. And I know you don't mind. And I want to know if you think they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame or not. All right. And to be fair to everybody, if you don't know who they are, Teddy, obviously you just pass. All right. So let's start. Ready? Let's go with our good buddy, John Ellis. Is he a Hall of Famer?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he could be pro or amateur or contribute. He's a 3-way donkey. We'll call him the little 3-way donkey. Little Ellie's a 3-way kicker. Yeah, for sure.
Agree. I agree. I concur. How about Tim Doyle?
Tim Doyle. Wow. Yeah, I think so. Amateur pro contributor. He worked a lot for eForce. But I have to say, I probably put Drew in before him just because he finished number 1. And even though Doyle was he's kind of I got to go 70-30 on Tim. But I think 70 yes, 30. I think I'm going to go 70-30 on that one.
I respect it. I'm a little biased, obviously. Dooley, Tim.
Yeah,
Tim,
no,
Tim was my partner for many pro doubles events that we only lost 1 match ever. But I would say he could go in as pro or amateur. I mean, he was number 2 in a prime time, years of racquetball. And I see him as a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I just think so in that era. So you got Cliff's in, Andy's in, Mike Ray's in, Ruben's in, and then who else was number one that we're missing? I think number one's got to go in, and that's Drew, right?
Drew finished number one once, right?
Yeah.
But again, isn't Drew somebody you can consider for both pro and amateur?
He didn't play a lot of amateur though. He went right into pros. Like
Okay.
he didn't play a ton of amateur.
That's kind of what I did, right? Like I just kind of played.
You went right in.
Well, here's a story.
You're too good, kid.
No, I mean, you know, and I love your stories, and we're definitely going to talk about at least one of them. But I don't know if you know this or remember this. So when I won my first pro stop, you know, the Pro Nationals, Michael Bromfeld kicked my ass in Houston in the quarterfinals the week before. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
So Bromfeld kicks my ass.
So that was 94 or 95?
May of 94.
Okay.
Bromfeld beats my ass in the quarterfinals 13-4, right? So Ellie now is already like a half a pro. He's in Portland already getting ready for the Pro Nationals. And he says to me, we're on the phone, and I'm not kidding you. You know, I don't know what the demographic of Beyond the Court probably understands this. I was on a payphone, and I'm talking to Ellie in Portland. Ellie just wants me to come hang out with him, Teddy. And he's like, oh, if you're going to be a pro racquetball player, you got to come to the Pro Nationals, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, I don't know. You know, see, I'll just, whatever, you know, who knows what I'm doing next week. Maybe I'm playing a basketball tournament at home or something, whatever. He goes, yeah, that's bull. You know, you better come. So I wind up going, and that was my first pro win ever. And I really wasn't planning on being there. You know, that's a true story. So
no, that's a great club. I was there for that. Yeah. You played amazing. Out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but you know, to win kind of out of nowhere.
Kind of. Yeah. That was Mike.
I mean,
Ray.
You know, you had all the stuff, but you know, I don't think people thought you were going to win.
Well,
you did.
Yeah. Well, here's the funny thing too, right? So I come in and I play Mike Ray in the first round. After Mike, I think it was Egan Inouye, then Doyle, then Drew. So the night of the finals, you definitely don't know this. So it's my first, like, you know, coming out party. And Hank Marcus, who I got a ton of respect for Hank. We have a great relationship. I will have Hank on the show. He, you know, the VCI was the sponsor. And every year at the Nationals, the winner of the Nationals, Teddy, do you remember, would get a car? Do you remember that?
Yep.
All right. So it's Drew and myself in the finals. And about 2 hours before the finals, Hank goes, and I'm 19, full of piss and vinegar. I don't care. I just want to compete, right? He goes, hey, guys, I got to talk to you. So it's me and Drew in a room and with Hank. He goes, yeah, you know, for whatever reason, the winner isn't going to get a car this year. And yeah, Teddy, and I'm like, I literally go, I don't care. I just want to play. Imagine if that was today, my reaction would have been a little different. Drew's reaction was certainly different too. So they took the car away a couple hours before the final, you know, and I'm pretty sure I'm telling it exactly how it happened, because Ellie and I joke all the time that when I first came on tour, I would say, I don't care about money. I don't care about this. I'm just playing for the love of the game. But I really was. That's no bull, you know, and you know, something I heard you talking to Scotty about Milpitas, you know, before. Would you mind telling the viewers that? Because that was a special moment. You know, not everybody knows that. The first year I ever finished number one was 1996. And what you don't know is I finished by 10 points, number one. There was only one way the outcome could have happened, and it happened. Teddy, what do you remember about that event?
I'm going to dig a little deeper. So I had a rental property in Dallas at the time, and the person renting it out destroyed it. So I had to go to Milpitas. I played open doubles, and pro. So I made the quarters, actually beat Ellis, lost to Roberts. I win the open, I win the open doubles, and I'm like, Hank, I need money. He goes, you want to ref the quarters? And I'm like, I'm in. So I ref from the quarters on. Anyway, you play Andy in the semis. And I was telling Scott, I had to stand on a chair looking through a hole down on the deal, and it's a parquet floor. The court's fast.
I remember it
You're,
well.
you're lightning fast getting everything. Andy's hitting at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I told him I was literally like 20% guess. I mean, I knew the game as much as anyone, just like you, but unless you're on the court, you really don't know what's good or bad. I mean, I'm looking through people. I don't know. Oh, it was a horror show. And then, Andy's my buddy from a long time. And it was, I basically was, after the match, he's like, he thought I cost him the match, but, he was a classic, great competitor. He whined a little bit on the court, but then you play. So I have to ref Swain against Ray.
And now wait, set that up though. So if Cliff wins that match, he finishes number 1 again.
Yep,
doesn't matter.
He's number 1 again.
Doesn't matter that I'm in the finals.
Yeah. And so I've always been tight with Cliff and all that stuff. We travel and stuff. And I'm looking at him before the match. And he's kind of laying there and he's telling me he has food poisoning, but he's told me that before and given me a donut. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? So you know how he is. He's so competitive. So it's like, yeah, whatever.
He lost 15 pounds in Mexico and won the tournament. I remember that. Like he got sick or food poisoning and he killed everybody.
Exactly. So anyway, he looked awful, but I didn't give it any credit. Well, to Mike's credit, all Mike did was try to figure out how he's going to beat Cliff. And he had a really good game plan against Cliff. Cliff played really flat. I was like, dude, you never play like that against me. And so Mike beats him. You beat Mike in the finals to finish number 1. But if Mike beats you, you don't finish number 1.
Correct. I had to win. Right.
You had to win. And Mikey was a little, that was kind of later in his career. When he started out, he was a banger. Like if you went and saw him play in Atlanta or something, like him and Andy would have these power matches. Like he could
really,
bang.
Yeah, he's a big, strong guy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a ripper. And so later in his career, he went more control, re-kill, high percentage stuff, and
smooth. Reminds me of you, actually. Really, reminds me of your game.
But that was a big win for you, and that was awesome. Congrats on that. I'm glad I was there. Since Mike Ray is we're talking a little bit about him. I went down to Hilton Head for my son's. He got out through the Marines at Parris Island, and I'm like,
hey, thank him for everybody, by the way, for his service. Yeah, I know he's in the Marines, so thank you for that. Really,
he's out here now. That's what brought us here, is because I wanted to be close to him. But anyway, Mikey, I go, Mike, we're at Hilton Head. I go, pick me up, Mike. And he's like, Teddy, there's no racquetball courts here. And I'm like, I just want to play some dubs. He goes, I'll pick you up. And he took me to play pickleball for real. So him and Ruben played pickleball.
I know. Yeah.
It's like, what the hell? So I'm like, there wasn't a court. There wasn't a court within an hour from Hilton Head. But the thing about Mike that I always liked about him is he's such a cool guy, but there's tape of him getting just robbed on calls, like balls being short by 3 feet, and he never.
Why? He's a great guy.
No. Like what I'm saying by that is just so it's on tape. Woody was reffing him against Doyle, and Woody wasn't paying attention, and the ball landed in the middle of the service box, and Wood just called it good, and Doyle was like grinding hard because he was way behind, and then Mike's like, he's pointing at the middle of the service box, and he's like, Wood, that bounced here. And it did. But you know what? He never lost his cool ever. Like my point is, his emotional intelligence was at such a high level. Like he never lost his cool.
Mikey Ray is amazing. Something, I don't know if you remember or not, talking about that final, and Mikey, will have him on the show also one day. I'll never forget this, Todd. I mean, my heart rate was going probably about 300 miles per hour. It was the finals. I know that if I win that, I'm number 1 in the world. I'm 19 or 20. Yeah, 19 or 20, whatever. Head's going to give me a big fat bonus check for finishing number 1. And my head's going to explode. I think I just don't know. And after like 3 points, Mike Ray, the finals at the time, it was the World Championships, right? It was called the Pro World.
BCI World.
Yeah, he literally in the middle of the court looks at me like after 2 or 3 points and goes, he smiles and goes, just relax. Because I couldn't hit a ball. Every ball I hit was like front wall, back wall, 300 miles per hour. I was like, I was like the Tasmanian devil on like, speed or something. And I remember that and I kind of laughed. And, yeah, Mikey's just a good dude. So, Mikey, thank you. But Teddy, thanks for being there. That was cool. All right, ready? Let's get back to a couple of quick Hall of Famers, and then you're going to help me answer some questions from
All
some
right.
fans. All right. Hall of Famer, yes or no? Russ Menino, my other dad. I won't find it
Russ
disrespectful.
Menino.
True. Obviously, as a
Wow.
contributor, right?
I don't know enough. I just know him as, I just know him as a dad. Really cool guy. Hung out with him at the US Open a bunch of times. I don't know enough to say yes or no. I really don't know anything about his contribution, to be honest. I just know that, I really don't know.
For me, obviously, like a dad to me, my other father, and rest in peace, Russ. But he introduced Ruben, Jason, and myself to the game.
He was a club owner back in Jersey, right?
Brooklyn,
Okay.
Brooklyn and Staten Island. But,
Okay.
again, there's somebody, he literally brought Ruben Gonzalez, Jason Menino, and myself to the game of racquetball. So, is he a contributor? I'd say yes. And
here's the deal though on that. Okay.
Yep.
Here's the caveat.
Yeah.
We're kind of far enough away from when he was involved.
Right.
So it gets to be speculation, right? Like, I don't know. The people on the board, they don't even know who he is. So it's hard to get a guy in. I think it's tougher to get a person in, when enough time goes by, right?
Okay. All right. Let me give you another one then. So we'll talk more recent. How about somebody like Keith Miner or Randy Root, financial supporters of racquetball? And let's be quite honest right now. If Randy Root doesn't make that donation in 2020, USA Racquetball might not be in existence today. What about those two guys?
No, I think absolutely. I think Randy for sure. That just happened. So for sure,
so you think that bang, he's a Hall of Famer for that?
He saved the game. I mean, we wouldn't have an association if we didn't do that.
I agree. I think it's a no-brainer. Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer.
Not to mention the the women's tour. What would they do without Randy? Not to mention, Kansas City Outdoor Racquetball when he flies in the women's pros and you got to get there, man. You got to go play with the guys.
Wait, time out. I'm going to be there in May. Thank you to Randy. I will be there.
Yeah, of course.
We're going.
You got to go.
And you just give me a little tip so I know, Scott, Todd, because I've done this a lot. Does he not want to lose? Because if he doesn't, I'm going to make sure we don't lose ever. Or does he just want to have fun?
So it's going to be different with you. He usually has a really hot women's pro and he kind of peacocks around and yeah, he likes to win. He does. Okay. He does. He really enjoys winning. So yeah.
All right. So just don't lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good enough.
You're good until Brad Rogers shows up and starts hitting at 200 and and then you're like, oh no,
that's all right.
You can handle it. You'll be fine.
I'll bring it 205. All right. I got a question. We got a question from Mike Orr. Good question. And you would know. He said he wants to know your best doubles team of all time, but I'm going to expand a little bit. Yeah. Give me the best 3 doubles teams, and you don't have to put them in order, that you've ever seen or competed against, and you have to exclude yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And not in any special order. Obviously, you and Doyle, Cliff and Menino, and Ray and Ruben in their heyday. So, okay. So listen, Ruben. Now, I just want to expand on Ruben a little bit. So Ruben played with Guidry when he was 50 in Bolivia.
That's amazing.
I was coaching like Tournament Americas down there. Might have been 03, whatever it was.
So Rubes was 50 on the U.S. team.
50 on the, yeah, he won national doubles with Guidry when he's 50.
I'm going to play again with Alex in June, hopefully. And I'm only 46. That means nothing. Hey, I got plenty of work to do.
Listen, you know how strong Rubes is. So he's playing with
He's a
Guidry.
freak.
They're playing two young kids from Mexico, like Paulo at the time. And I forget the other kid. I'm sorry. But anyway, it's the fishbowl in Bolivia. They're diving all over the place. Ruben's 50. And he hits a diving re-kill at 10-10 on the breaker for the 11-10 win. And I was coaching the team,
right?
But I wasn't coaching that match, and I was watching the match through like a stairway. Like I didn't have a seat.
It was
like,
packed.
There was 1,000 people there.
Yep.
And it was so unbelievable. And then after in the locker room, I'm like looking at him, and he's, you know, he just walks around eating fruit all the time, and
candy.
His body was like a 30-year-old body, but anyway. So, all right, keep going with the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry,
I love that. We're gonna. Todd Boss has a question. This is a good one. And then Scott, after this, let's go to the questions by by the fans. All right, Todd. Todd Boss says Ruben and Guidry versus Ruben and Mike Ray. Who do you pick?
Depends on the year.
No, can't. All things equal, they're both going to play at their best. Who do you got?
I got to go with Mike Ray.
Wow. Okay. All right. That's a good. So Rubes and Ray beat the best Ruben and Guidry. That's a good one. You know, Teddy, I got to ask you because I know you're a sports fan also, and Ellie and I have this conversation all the time. The way I define a GOAT or the best, right, is similar to that of the movie Space Jam. And I'm sure our demographic sees it. And here's what I mean. The aliens come down and they go, okay, we need your best against our best. And your best can be defined as they're going to play their best, whether they finish number one time, 1,000,000 times, never, right? So here's a good example, like a Tim Sweeney at his best. We know he could play with anybody, right? Give me your top 5 players of all time in racquetball.
The thoroughbreds are Hogan, Swain, you, Brumfield, Kane.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that. You
said top 5, right?
Yeah. No, in no order. Yeah, no, I'm not going to argue with that. Thank you for putting me in there. But I tell you, our buddy Ellie, to me, fits that mold of a guy that when he plays at his best can absolutely beat all of them. And for that reason, I have him in my top 5 of all time. And there's one more player that I do too, and that's Jason. So, but anyway, we're going to move on. I'm not going to let you even comment on that. And Scotty, can you bring up Todd? You're going to help me right now because there's not many players that could help me with this. You're going to help me with some fan questions. All right. You ready?
Go.
All right. Scotty Mac, bring up the videos. What do we got?
Hi, my name is Jordan. I'm from Stockton, California. And the question that I have is, what was your guys' favorite pro stop to play?
All right. That's a good one, Teddy. Did you hear her? That's Jordan Ellis. And she said, what was your favorite pro stop to play? So I'll let you answer first.
My favorite, only because I went to school there, was Memphis, the Memphis Pro Stop, and then when it was the U.S. Open because of, I went to college there. I knew everybody. It's just, I love Memphis, and I got to give kudos to that one, that stop. That was my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree with you more. There's no doubt that, Memphis, the U.S. Open for me means more than many will ever know. The environment, the electricity. When Doug Gannon brought me to that U.S. Open for the first time in '96, Teddy, and I know you remember, I'll never forget, man. He kind of took me for a tour and walking around, everything from the smell of that club to the draw sheets up to the village. It was just different. And to this day, talking about it, it gives me the chills, man. And, that Memphis Pro Stop was It was the Super Bowl of racquetball, and Doug Annam, you know, you're a dear friend, but thank you for doing that. And Teddy, you remember, I mean, there was over 1,000 people in the stands. I remember
It was crazy.
walking over people to get into the finals to play Cliff or Andy the first year. And like the energy was just insane. And I would say Memphis, but a close second, and I know you've been there, Mike Coulter did an amazing job in Las
Oh
Vegas
yeah, Vegas.
at the Sporting House. And it wasn't because it was Vegas. You know, the event was fantastic. I mean, Mike Tyson watched us play racquetball.
Yeah, that club was amazing. Yeah, no, that's certainly, I agree. That was a close second. We had so many great clubs back then.
We did. It was the,
You know,
energy. It was the energy and the environment,
yeah.
the electricity. All right, Scotty Mack, give us our second one.
Hello, I'm Camilla from Stockton, California. Hello, John and Sudsy. And my question is, how do you adapt to playing a left-handed player in racquetball?
Ooh, that's a great question from Stockton, California. So how do you adapt to playing a left-handed player? Teddy, you are a lefty. You're a legend in our sport. I'm going to let you want me to answer it or you want to go? You tell me. It's up to you.
You can go.
All
I'll
right.
go too. Whatever. We'll both go.
All right, I'll go first. No, we're both going to answer. I'll go first because Todd is a lefty and he's a specialist too. He's one of the best left side doubles players. He's in my top 10 of all time on the left. So he's going to get it too, but Todd is a lefty. So how I play a lefty is quite honestly no different at all. All I do is I identify that their backhands on this side and their forehands on this side. But I'm not making too many adjustments. What I'm looking for in a player, it's not just whether they're a lefty or a righty. It's what are their weaknesses and what are their strengths. And then that's what I'm going to play into. But I'm not really changing too much other than the obvious, which is their backhand is now on the right and their forehand is now on the left. Cliff Swain, many will say that he was my rival. Obviously, I've played Kane a bunch of times. I've played Todd. I played some great lefties, Mike Guidry. And that's really how I attacked it. You know, no different. Go play, go prepare, be ready, and be aware of your opponent's strengths and weaknesses, regardless of which hand their racket is in. Todd, you're a lefty.
Yeah. So I'm going to add to that. I think I think it's different for different levels of play. So obviously at the pro level, you know, someone's forehand might be better than their backhand. Like Sudsy said, you just have to exploit their weaknesses. But a lot of times when players are starting out or they're not quite accomplished and they have most people tend to have a bad backhand starting out. You know, if you're a righty, you know, you might want to do some isolation, lob down the line to the backhand, or a drive Z to the lefty's backhand if you're righty, just to isolate on those two. Because like a lot of times a righty, when you're first starting out, you're just trying to exploit a bad backhand mostly in the developmental stages. So you'll just try to aim everything to the left. So you have to hit more lines, just, aim to the right. So that's my advice.
What would you, if you were coaching me against, say, Cliff, and would you tell me anything different? Because not specifically on Cliff's game, but because he's a lefty versus a righty, would you tell me anything different?
No, because I think you just have to mix it up against another pro. You really can't, because they're equally strength on both sides. Cliff's forehand might be better. It's probably better, but still, his backhand's, it's not like he's going to skip a bunch of balls with his backhand. I would just tell you to mix speeds and just keep changing pace, mixing speeds and angles, really.
Okay. All right. Good stuff, Teddy. All right, Scotty, what's the next question? Bring it.
Hey, Sudsy. John, how you guys doing? Hey, my question, I would like to see the tour, and this is going to sound crazy maybe, I would like to see the tour have both one serve and two serve. In other words, some stops play with two serves, and other stops play with just one serve. What do you guys think of that idea, all in all? Thank you.
No questions from Dave Ellis. Dave Ellis is banned from this program.
So that's the great Dave Ellis.
That was Dave.
Father of John Ellis, Team USA head coach, Interesting question, Teddy. What's your response to that? 2 serves, 1 serve?
I like, it's 2 serves now, isn't it?
Yeah, the pros play with 2 serves, correct.
I just went to the thing. I'm like, yeah. I think he's right. I think, but I don't think you can mix it up. I think you have to go one way or the other. I think you go, I like 2 serves, but I don't think you can mix it up. I think you have to make a decision one way or the other.
Interesting. Yeah. So I prefer 1 serve. You know, Kane and I talk about it a lot. And we're going to be in our experience that we're doing down in Vero Beach. We're actually going to play. We're going to play against each other, and we're going to play hard and bring it. And we're going to play 1 serve. And Scotty Mack will actually be there reffing. So Scotty Mack, 1 serve, and we're going to play win by 2. You know, Dave, that's interesting. You know, I know there's, Teddy, some tennis events, right? They have different rules like tiebreakers and stuff. Like, doesn't Wimbledon play a super tiebreaker and then others a win by 2?
Sure. Yep. Yeah. I just think, I think the players are getting their game together, so it's hard to kind of go back and forth. But maybe that's a possibility. Can I ask you a question since we're going? Or?
Absolutely. No. Yeah. Of course you can.
Okay. So the kid, I call him the kid because I met him when he was 8. So I always call him the kid. So kid shows up 2017 US Open in Minneapolis. I hadn't seen him in forever. He's playing doubles with Cliff. He's coaching. He's got a baby in tow. He's got a million things going on. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And he went through the qualifying. I mean, it was like, I think you were making lunch for people. I don't know what you were doing. But all I could say was like, dude, you're playing as good as you've ever played. Where you been? And why the hell where did you go? And what took you so long to get back? You know, so answer that to me. You know, like you came right back, and, you know, you really, in your playing days were a little more solid, if you will. And then you kind of really streamlined your frame. And man, if you just went and played that pro stop, I mean, you could have, you made the quarters and played great, but all I thought is like, man, you could have, who knows what you could have done without the other stuff. So 2 questions. What took you so long to get back? And then, you know, you played doubles with Clavin, you had qualifying, you were coaching, you had baby, you know, it was like a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Todd, I appreciate that, buddy. I love you just for that. You know, it was in 2015. I started coaching the Ecuadorian team, and, you know, I'm working with them, and definitely wasn't in the physicality or the physical shape I'm in today. You know, that's almost 6 years ago. And, you know, just being on the court and trying to get them better, I realized and looked in the mirror and said, like, hey, if I'm going to, you know, I got to practice what I preach, right? If I'm going to try to get people better around me, I need to be better myself. And it wasn't just physically, it was mentally, it was everywhere. And, you know, of course, then I meet my wife, Veronica, and you met Veronica, and you know Veronica. And, you know, she's just an inspiration, man. And she just keeps me going. And in 2017, you know, we're married and we want to have a baby. And true story, she's training for the US Open. And Cliff and I always say it, and Ellie says it, we think she's top 2 or 3 players in the world anytime she wants to play full time. And she's focused getting ready for the US Open. In fact, I think the year before, she was down 10-5 to Paola. She beats Paola 12-10. This was in the semis, but, you know, she lost that match. But anyway, so we're trying to have a baby. This is in 2017. And she's telling me the same thing. She's like, babe, you got to play. Like, you need to play the US Open. You're ready and you can compete. And I didn't want to, you know, I wasn't wired, you know me personally. And I just had no desire. I didn't need titles. I don't need accolades. I don't need people patting me on the back saying, you know, and I discovered at that moment really that it wasn't about me anymore. You know, I looked at her and I said, I tell you what, if you're pregnant and you can't play, I'll play. And one day I was at the club and I'm giving a lesson or something in August. I'll never forget. It was almost 6 weeks exactly to the day of my first match. And I get a text and it's Veronica. And she says, hey, love, you're playing in the US Open. And I'm like, what? Like, would you enter me without telling me? And she sends me a picture of the pregnancy test. And I was like, I think I canceled my lesson. I ran back. And then from that, the next day, I started to really train. And Todd, you know what it takes to really focus and lock in to be prepared for an event versus being in shape or playing or being okay. And I started training twice a day. And the first ball I saw a pro hit me in over 10 years was Jake Bredenbeck. And because we were in Minneapolis and I called Jake and we practiced. I played 10 games with him from that time to my first match of the US Open. And, you know, I just discovered kind of a new like focus. I don't care about winning, Todd. Like if I could help somebody be better and inspire or motivate them to maximize who they are, whether it's on the court or off the court, I'm all about that. You know, people ask me now, right? They're like, go play singles, go do this. And I just enjoy doubles more because I have a partner. You know, it was Rocky in 2018. Now it's Alex Landa. And that's more inspiring for me and the people I work with and the people I can communicate to. And that's really what my focus is now, buddy. I don't care about titles and, you know, all these other things. I want to try to make you better. And if I could do that, Teddy, call me and let's hang out. So that's,
well, your game, you know, you only have so much shelf life in our racquetball lives, and you can still get around and play. So I'm just happy to see that for you. And glad that, you know, you won the last pro doubles deal. You're playing great. Good to see it. It's good to see you out there.
I appreciate it, Todd. And, you know, with that, it's time to close the show, but I got to be honest, this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this. I hope you did.
I loved it. I have a Jerry Price story that I want to give you at some point next time.
Scotty Mack just said in the earpiece, we're very high tech. He said, we got one more video from a fan. Bring it. What do you got, Scotty?
Jose Diaz, Stockton, California. My question to you guys is, why the hell have I not been a guest on your guys' show? I know there was technical difficulties last time, but I need to get back on. I want to chat with you guys, and I'm sure a couple people might want to see that, and they might tune into that.
Jose Diaz, Teddy, he wants to be a guest on the show. Do you know Jose?
Get him in. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
He is a Kansas City legend. Everybody talks about him with his big upset win over Kane in Kansas City. All my buddies back there, you know, Randy, Roscoe, Art, all the guys, Bradley Rogers always talk about the big Jose 11-9 in the fifth win for sure. So yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, Jose, you heard it. Next time I have Todd as our co-host, you're coming in. But to be fair, he did say there were some technical difficulties, and we were going to try to have him. Ellie and I were going to try to have Jose, Todd, but his Wi-Fi wasn't good. And Scotty Mack doesn't like that. It's difficult when the Wi-Fi is going in and out, you know?
Yeah.
So Jose, get your game ready, be ready. Cause I think Todd and I are going to bring in that's Diaz, by the way. You're not talking about which Jose were you talking? You know, that's Jose Diaz.
Oh, wait. I got my Rojas's and my
Diaz. Oh my
God. Sorry, man.
God.
Oh, Stockton, and it's Stockton too.
It is Stockton. It's all right. It's Stockton.
I got it mixed up, but
yeah, that's okay. No
he's
worries.
a great player too.
I was going to ask you. I was going to say you guys would be a good doubles team. You and Diaz. Diaz should be over on the right, but him and Jake Bredenbeck are like buddies. So I don't know. They don't want to. You know what that's like. You don't want to leave
over
your buddy.
75. I'm recruiting young guys for the over 75.
You guys are a lock. You get Diaz on the right. I'm with you guys. All right, Todd. Hey, again, you know, really, thank you. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. And
loved it.
Will you do it again with me?
Yeah, let me know. I'm in.
You're in? All right, good. All right, everybody. So thank you for joining Todd O'Neil and I tonight, Teddy, AKA, on episode 34 of Beyond the Court. You know, Ellie, we love you. We miss you. We know that you're taking a little bit of a break, Todd. He's going to take a little break.
Can I say something really quick?
Absolutely.
I heard Johnny was going in to get leg extensions. Is that true?
You see, so not
this
now.
is the kind of stuff I say. Ellie, I love you, brother, but I was just kidding. Okay, calm down.
That's okay. You know, Teddy, you go way back with all of us. Todd's one of the guys for a long time. And, you know, we appreciate that. But Ellie, maybe that'll get you back out here quick enough. So I want to say thank you. Thank you to Scotty McClellan, always doing what he does in the back. Keith Miner, KWM Gutterman, of course. Thank you so much. Todd O'Neil, I appreciate you joining me. Veronica, my love, all the stuff you see, the graphics, you know, anything you see advertisements, Veronica does that. We actually get calls. Hey, who does your graphics? Who does this? Who does your commercials? And you're going to see a really cool one right now. And we're going to say goodnight, but we will see you next Sunday night on Beyond the Court, episode 35. Who knows? Maybe we'll have Todd back. Everybody,
Thanks,
have a
buddy.
great
Have
night.
a good one.
See you
Later.
next week.
The lion is the king of the jungle. How can he be the king of the jungle? If he's not the biggest, the elephant is probably one of the biggest. He can't be the fastest because that's a cheetah. He can't be the smartest. So he's not the biggest, the fastest, or the smartest. So how does the lion become the king of the jungle? His mentality. That's the only difference of a lion and an elephant.
Player to ever play the game.
When a lion walks up and sees an elephant, he thinks lunch. An elephant thinks run. And it's all mentality. But I'm king of my jungle because of my mentality.